This is the second part of the training series on conducting qualitative interviews. Hello again, I am Esther Indriani. I'm working as a Senior Technical Advisor for Health and Nutrition in TSO, World Vision International. I'm the trainer for the qualitative method for this evaluation. I prepared this video so that you can use them to train your field staff in the qualitative evaluation tools that we will be using in this evaluation. These training videos are prepared for the Takeda Healthy Village Project final evaluation in 4 countries, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, and Nepal. It is a 5-year health system strengthening project implemented by World Vision International with the funding from Takeda Pharmaceuticals Japan. I have prepared the videos based on several good references that I found and also from my own experience. You are welcome to use this training video for other purposes as well. In the second part of the training, I will go through a very popular method in qualitative research, which is key informant interview. In the first video, I have gone through the differences between interview for quantitative method versus interview for qualitative method. Qualitative interview is needed to find out information on why, how, when, what, who, and where. So make sure that you as interviewer get this information and clear description from the interview. Otherwise, we will have challenges in analyzing the transcripts. I have shared also the expected manners and behaviors of an interviewer that we all should maintain. All right, let's start with key informant interview. Key informant interviews involve interviewing selected individuals who can provide the needed information, ideas, and insights on a particular topic. We only interview people who are knowledgeable about the topic, either from their direct experience or because they are directly involved in specific program that we want to explore. So we are not looking for the big number of interviews with people who just know so about the topic that we are interested about. Instead, we are looking for selected people who can be considered as key person or experts about the particular topic. An expert doesn't have to be linked with a certain academic degree. For example, a mother who experienced giving birth in health facility for her 3 children can be considered as an expert for her specific knowledge, her attitudes, values, and experiences on why a woman in remote area chose to give birth in health facility. Another example is a health official who leads the health program in one district and who has been involved in the planning and also implementation of a certain project funded by foreign aid. Another example is a community leader who has been living in his community for more than 5 decades, and he understands very well about his community, about the health situation. For example, he knows more or less how many children born and died this year, and he knows which families just moved into his village. So these are examples of how the respondents are considered to be experts. In qualitative method, we are not looking to interview a huge number of respondents, and this is where it is different with the quantitative method, where we conduct house-to-house interview and where the number of people to be interviewed can reach hundreds of people based on the samples that they have calculated. In qualitative method, the number of people to be interviewed in key informant interview is usually between 15 to 35 people in total. Key informant interviews are qualitative interview. They are conducted using interview guides that list the topics and also issues to be covered during a session. It is important that we make sure the feel of this interview is informal. It's almost like a conversation between two people who have known each other for some time. And one thing for sure, to have this, the respondent must feel comfortable. The interviewer will try to probe or to dig more information and also diligently takes key notes of the responses so that it can be followed up later in the next questions. But when you write your notes, be careful not to make respondents feel uncomfortable if they think that their answer is not good. You just be careful with how you write. In this case, for key informal interview, detailed notes will still be needed as transcript. And because it is not going to be possible to conduct the interview and at the same time make detailed notes, the key informal interview session is usually recorded with an audio recorder, and then later on the recording will be transcribed. What are the advantages of key informal interviews? So a key informal interview, it has both advantages and limitations. We will go through the advantages of key informal interview first. Okay, first of all, because information comes directly from people who are knowledgeable, the key informal interview oftentimes provides data and also insights that cannot be obtained using other methods. For example, the key informants may provide confidential information that you will not get in a group discussion or in public or in quantitative method. Second, the key informal interview provides the flexibility to explore new ideas or issues that had not been anticipated in the planning for the study, but actually is still relevant. So let me give you an example. A key informant may mention that one of the main reasons that mothers in the community did not want to join the cash transfer program because of the complicated procedures and the long process they have to go through. As the researcher or evaluator, this topic should be investigated and also asked with the other key informants, even though it was not included in the original interview guide. And such a change is not going to be possible in household survey and census. Third, it is generally easy to find people with necessary skills to conduct key informal interviews, but we still need to provide training before the data collection starts. And that is because of the reasons we will discuss later in the limitations. Fourth, key informal interviews are among the least expensive method of the social science research because it's going to take small number of samples and the costs involved are usually just for the interviewer, for the audio recorder, for transportation costs, and possibly a translator, and yeah, in some cases also the transcriber. With all the advantages of key informal interview, what are then its limitations? Well, one, because key informal interview provide only a very limited basis for quantification, they are not to be used when quantitative data are needed. But yeah, still decision makers sometimes expect to have statistical data with precision in the evaluation. So in this case, the key informal interviews cannot be used without survey-based data. It's just to complement the survey-based data if in the end the evaluation requires to have statistical precision. Two, the findings itself can be biased if the informants are not carefully selected. For example, if the researcher and the field team, they just try to find key informants based on their ability to speak in English instead of their knowledge of the local situation. So using this selection approach, it will limit the possibilities of key informants that they can select. And even maybe they only select people who are relatively more educated or people who are wealthier, richer to be interviewed, such as the village leaders or village elites, people, rich people in the village. But this problem can be avoided by ensuring that we recruit key informants from a wider pool of knowledgeable informants. The findings can also be influenced by interviewer biases. For example, if the interviewer picks and chooses only the questions that he or she likes or comfortable asking, and then they skip important but difficult questions, it will result in bias. Or if the interviewer talks more and probes more when they are interviewing key informant who seem to be more educated or wealthier than when they are interviewing the poor group of people. So it is important to be cautious of these common mistakes. The next limitation is that when only a few people, fewer than 15 people are interviewed, it may be difficult to demonstrate the validity of the findings. And last, when the interviewers are not trained well, the result could only get common information, not an in-depth information. Before conducting key informant interviews, the research team will need to plan. At this point, we have done these processes and conducting this training for you and for your field team. However, I want to show you a glimpse of what is done so far to plan for key informant interviews. Formulating the study questions, reviewing available information, developing a conceptual framework, preparing the interview guides, and selecting key informants. In this training, I would like to highlight the importance of selecting the key informants, as you will help the evaluation team to find the key informants in the field. The quality of key informant interviews really relies on choosing the right informants. And of course, the most important consideration is that the informants have a deep knowledge of the subject on which they will be interviewed. For example, it may be based on their special social positions, or their experience, or their participation in the project or program, or because of their professional expertise. And usually government officials, academic experts, local leaders, representatives of specialized groups, and also members of the target populations, they will make good key informants. I want to make note that you will need to provide the list of key informants whom we will interview in this evaluation. We will discuss this in the Q&A during the training. Now, let's proceed to how to conduct key informant interviews. Number one, preparation. The first step is a very important step, which is the preparation. Make sure that you have the list of all key informants and their address, their location, their appointment date, and time. As the field office team, please prepare this and help the interviewers to make appointment with the selected key informants. Another preparation is the logistics. So this includes the printed copy of the interview guides and also the blank informed consent form that is enough for all the interviews that will be done that day. Make sure that each interviewer has the complete set of all type of key informants guides, and also prepare also the audio recorder with batteries and also provide spare batteries. Have also some stationaries, for example, notebook and pens to write short answers of the key informant. Specifically about audio recorder. One interview can last for 1.5 hours or 2 hours, and then usually the batteries get drained after 1 or 2 interviews. So please ensure that the field team has enough spare batteries. Also check that the recorder functions well. Delete previous file if the memory is full. Ensure that each recording is saved safely and then sent to the country project team after each interview. The country project team will later on send to TSO for analysis. Make sure, and in this case, really demonstrate and also double check that each interviewer knows how to use the recorder, knows when the battery is almost empty, and also knows how to send the voice data, etc. As a special note, you should not conduct any interview without any audio recorder functioning. It is a must because we will record the interview and we will make detailed transcript out of each interview. Next, in this COVID-19 pandemic situation, we always have to make sure that everyone is protected. Follow the safety protocols. Provide face masks and face shield to the interviewer's team, including for the translator. Provide face mask or offer a face mask to each KII informant if they do not wear one. Interviewer must sit at least 1 meter away from the respondent and try to ask to have the interview in a quiet room with some ventilation. Avoid touching and also handshake. Instead, use the namaste gestures to greet people and to thank the respondents. Provide hand sanitizer in each location for the key informant interview, for the respondent to use, also for the interviewers. Before and after signing informed consent form, before and after the key informant interview. Pay attention to that since you will wear face mask, you need to conduct tests to check whether the recorder is sensitive enough to record the interviews. How far should you place the recorder so that it can record the conversation that is good enough, clear enough for the transcriber to hear? Do you really need to be in a very quiet place for interview? So please check all this before you start. Now the second part is conducting the interview. Always try to arrive at least 30 minutes early for all your key informant interview appointments. Arriving early will help you to get ready and also to calm down and check all your preparations. And use this time for interviewers to make the respondent feel more comfortable with your presence and with the interview process. Check the situation and make it more conducive for the interview process. Remember that a terrible situation or unpredictable things always happen in the field. So as interviewer, you need to make the process conducive for interview. For example, if there are other people who happen to be in the location for the interview, they might disturb the interview. So you need to tell them to go or excuse yourself from the location and find a quiet place. Another possibility is when the place actually is too hot or too humid. It's not going to be comfortable for 1.5 hours interview. So yeah, you need to find another place that is much better. Or when the place is actually not quiet enough for the interview. For example, if it is actually by the roadside with a lot of motorcycles passing through, or a lot of street vendors with noises and disturbances, You also need to get a comfortable place first before you start conducting the interview. When meeting the key informal interview respondent, ensure that you, as the interviewer, already wear face mask and also face shield, and use the namaste gestures to greet the respondent. Again, remember to sit at least 1 meter away from the respondent. Introduce yourself to the key informant, have some warming up questions, and then ask for informed consent from the KII respondent to agree on having the key informant interview, and also to agree to have the interview recorded. Ask the key informant interview participant to sign on the informed consent form, and then you collect the form. Inform the respondent that the interview will be done in 1.5 hours approximately, and that the content will be confidential, and in the analysis, we will remove the name of the respondent. Testing the recording. We need to test the recorder by placing the recorder in one place. So preferably it's going to be in the middle between you and the respondent. Turn it on, say something, and then ask the respondent also to say something. And then stop the recorder and check the result. Is it loud enough? Is it clear enough? If it is not good enough, then you need to move the recorder to a better place, or you need to move to a better location, and then you repeat the test. Do it until the result is good enough, because remember, if the transcriber cannot hear the result well, your interview is useless. When you are ready to start, press the start button in the audio recorder device, mention the date and time, location of interview, name of interviewer, name of the KII respondent, position of the KII respondent, and age of the KII respondent. Ask question one by one, as in the key informal interview guide, but ensure that interesting statements or ambiguous statements can be followed up and you clarify with them. Make sure that you ask and clarify statements, anything that is not clear or confusing. Because if you feel confused, imagine how more confused the transcriber will be when they listen to the recording. Next is to pay attention to how the key informant speaks. If the informant speaks too fast, so ask him or her to slow down. If the informant speaks too softly, it is not going to be recorded well. So please remind them to speak up a little bit more. When the respondent does not understand the question correctly, you need to rephrase the question. You will know this when the answer that when the answer that the respondent gives is not related to your question. It means the respondent does not understand the question or misunderstand it. In asking questions, pay attention to the body language of the respondent and how the respondent answered the question. Because people tend to avoid telling bad things or bad experience to outsiders, people they just met. For example, if one of the main reasons that mothers didn't want to join the cash transfer program is because of the complicated procedures and the long process, when you ask the question, the respondent might only answer, "Oh, yeah, it's good," with different body language. This needs more in-depth questions outside the guide. For example, you ask again, What do you mean by good? Like, or why do you think it's good? Like, can you share some examples why you consider that to be good? Yeah. Next, before finishing, check the list of the key informant interview questions. Make sure that you have asked all the questions and you don't miss anything. And then you tag the respondent and you turn off the recorder. Okay, number 3 is about submitting your work. After your job is completed, you submit the recorder and the content to the field supervisor at the end of each data collection day. Make sure that all the files are safely saved by the project team before deleting the recording files in the voice recorder. It's going to be your responsibility as interviewer as well as the responsibility of the field supervisor, yeah, to make sure that the files you submitted are correctly saved. Yeah. Okay, some practical tips. In the first contact, when you have first contact with your key informant, first impression really matters. And that's why in the first video, I mentioned about the importance to have the right manners and also the right appearance. As interviewer, you also represent the organization or the research team. Like in this case, you will be representing World Vision. It is important to dress nicely and to behave politely because the first contact you have is really when you establish the trust with the key informants. If you will interview a government official, you need to check the correct time and schedule for the appointment that the field team has prepared for you. I strongly recommend that you have secured appointment with all the key informants assigned to you, regardless of whether they are government officials or not. It will really help you gain the trust from the key informants and also save you time and trouble. Imagine if you go to the meeting place and then you couldn't find your key informant because he has another meeting or he forgets about the interview. It's really a waste of time and resources. So please always check and confirm the appointment. And also for government officials, sometimes it is necessary to carry an assignment letter to show that you are indeed the person hired to do the job, to do the interview, for the purpose that the project team has informed the officials. As a start, interviewers should briefly explain their background, the objective of the interview, in this case for the evaluation, and the possible uses of the information provided by the key informant. Assure also about the confidentiality of the information. So we have provided the informed consent form to help you explain all these details and also to get the key informant consent to be interviewed. Use this opportunity to explain only in brief details. I mean, do not add too many details that you are not sure of because it may confuse the informant or you may say the wrong thing. Make sure that you get the key informant's consent before starting the interview. And then once you have obtained the key informant's consent, ask his or her agreement to have the audio recorder on. Next, I'm going to share with you the use of appropriate communication skills that is critical in conducting key informant interviews. We communicate through our words and our body language, either through movement and expressions. these are some communication skills that will be important for your key informant interview. For example, whether you should smile or not. So it depends on the culture sometimes, but generally people will expect you to smile a bit, not too much, but don't look too stiff. So smiling is important, especially when you introduce yourself to the key informant. In terms of whether we should cross our arms and legs, this again also you need to check with the local traditions. Sometimes crossing your arms and legs, it shows that you look relaxed, you pay attention. But at the same time, there's a danger that you may look too relaxed or you actually don't look care enough for, to listen to the conversation. So please check. Choosing where to sit. So we discussed earlier about the need to sit 1 meter away from each other for COVID-19 prevention. But of course, choosing where to sit is important, and make sure that as much as possible you sit across each other so that you can have eye contact. And also choosing what level to sit. It is always recommended that you sit at the same level with the informant. So since it's going to be 1.5 hours, we actually don't recommend that you sit on the floor because it's going to tire you if you're not used to it. So if possible, try to find two comfortable chairs to sit for you as interviewer and also for the informant. In terms of making eye contact, it's important that you know what is the appropriate level and frequency to make eye contact with the key informant. Yeah. So generally, it is good to show that you look interested and engaged, so you make eye contact, but make sure that you keep the informant comfortable. Yeah, don't stare too much. In terms of using hand movement, sometimes hand movement help you to feel at ease and also help you to have a smoother conversation. So it's fine, but yeah, just be careful not to use it too much because it can be distracting as well. In terms of this, in the interaction between man and woman, as much as possible, it will be good to have person from the same gender. For example, a man interview a man, and then a woman interview a woman, because we're talking about the context. For example, in South Asia, where it is important. And therefore, in this evaluation, we will try as much as possible to arrange that we have a male interviewer for the male informant and female interviewer for the female informant. So when you try to show that you look interested and engaged, it is actually much better. So, for example, you look at the informant, or you move your body forward. It shows that you are engaged and you are interested to listen to the conversation or to listen to what the informant is saying. It's much better. So please don't look bored and don't look sleepy, because if you look sleepy, this might offend the key informant, and yeah, the interview can just finish very quickly. If you look like you are interested in what the informant is sharing, it's likely also that he or she likes to share more. So that's about communication skills. Next, I have shared this, okay. So next is about listening skills. So listening is very important as interviewer. We want to avoid the situation where the interviewer keeps interrupting the informant as he or she speaks. Not only that it is rude, to do this. It can also distract the informant or making them forget what they want to say. If you really have to ask because something is not clear for you or confuses you, make note about what is not clear and then ask after the informant finishes the sentence. Some of the ways we can show that we pay good attention and we listen to the informants are the following. Through body language, so we sit opposite the person, we maintain the eye contact as appropriate, we look relaxed and open, we don't rush the informant, we also nod or smile. Through responses, we can sometimes reflect back or just repeat briefly the last sentence that the informant was saying, just as confirmation, and also to show empathy, especially if the informant is telling a sad story or a situation which happened to them in the past, for example, about losing a child. So take time to show that you empathize with them because, again, it's all about being polite. It's all about making sure that the respondent feels comfortable in this interview. And also, another good tip is to use transitional comments. So an interview will go more smoothly if the interviewer use transitional comments to introduce a new topic. So it's like creating bridges from one section to the next. It will make the interview seem more like a natural conversation and less like a formal meeting. Transitional comments is, for example, something like this. Your description of the home visit for pregnant women has been very helpful, sir. Yeah, it helps so much to explain the situation. Now, I want to ask you a few more questions about how people in this community use the learnings they get from the field visit. Yeah. So this is the example of the transitional comment, and we will practice more during the training. All right. Before we end this video on key informant interview, let's recap the key points from this video. Key informant interview are qualitative interview conducted using interview guides that list the topics and issues to be covered during a session. Remember, again, it is only a guide. So if there are interesting statements or interesting remarks, please follow that up and then you go back to the guide. It is important that the feel of the interview is informal. It's like conversation between two people. And also the quality of the key informant interview will depend on how we choose the right informants. And of course, the most important consideration is that the informants have a deep knowledge of the subject on which they will be interviewed. How to conduct the key informant interviews? First of all, preparation. So making sure that you have all the appointments confirmed, stationaries, logistics, especially the audio recorder and spare batteries. Arrive early to your appointment, dress politely, have good attitudes and manners, and follow the COVID-19 safety protocols, and ask for informed consent. So those are the preparation. The next part is about conducting the interview. So ask the question one by one in the guide and follow up on the interesting statements. Make sure that you clarify things that are not clear or confusing for you. And then also pay attention to how the informant speaks. They should not speak too fast. They should not speak too soft. Yeah. And check the question guide. Make sure that you don't forget any question. When you finish with the interview, you tag the informant and then you turn off the recorder. After the interview, you submit the recorder and the content to the field supervisor. Okay, two important skills in conducting the key informant interview. First is the communication skills. Again, like for example, the level of smiling, the position of your arms and legs, choosing where to sit, choosing what level to sit, making eye contact, hand movement, and the interaction between man and woman that is accepted in that context. The second skills is the listening skills, and we mentioned about it's important to pay attention to the body language of the interviewer. So these are the advices. We sit opposite the person, we maintain eye contact as appropriate, we look relaxed and open, we don't rush the respondent, we nod or smile. And then through our responses, we demonstrate that we are actually listening. So, for example, reflect back sometimes, and to show empathy when it is appropriate, and use transitional comments. Okay, this is the end of the second video. We will continue with the third video, conducting focus group discussion, or FGD. Thank you for your kind attention, and see you in the next video.